In this class we're going to talk about a development plan. Now this relates to an individual. It's a plan that sets out how the individual can achieve some career objective. So it's a development plan for a person. Let's start with what is a development plan. It's properly seen as a portfolio which consists of resources and documents. So at the widest level, it's a portfolio of documents that relate to an individual, relate to his or her educational achievements and to his or her experiences and his or her work history. These documents help you to map out your career opportunities and show off your skills and attributes. So aimed at the individual, these help you to showcase what you're good at and emphasize your abilities and your desirability as a worker. A development plan is a working document. Throughout your career, your development plan will grow with evidence to articulate your skills and achievements. So it's not something at one phase of your life. This is something that's ongoing. It's a portfolio of experiences, of qualifications, of achievements that right throughout your life are adding to your desirability as a worker in the workforce, as a member of staff within an organization. Now, what to consider? Well, what to consider when producing a development plan? Well, your career choice. Why did you select that particular career? Your goals and ambitions. What do you want to achieve, and where do you want to be in a certain number of years' time? Your strengths and your weaknesses. Emphasize your strengths, but also acknowledge honestly what your weaknesses are and say what remedial measures you're putting in place to strengthen what were your weaknesses. A map of how you intend to achieve your goals. Show how you aim to achieve what your objectives are. And how you plan to structure your studies. If you're a student engaged in a course at college or at university, then how do your studies fit into your plans? How is there coherence between what you're doing now and what you're aiming to do in the future? Now, how to produce a development plan? Well, you're responsible for the development of your development planning. I know there are many developments in that sentence, but you are responsible for the development of the development planning. You're responsible for the plan itself. So use a skills audit to enable you to recognize any skills gap that need to be developed. A skills audit is simply a list of your skills and then match those, or try to match those, against desirable skills for particular occupations, making sure that what you've got and what you have recognized, make sure that they are recognized honestly, but compare those with the desirable skills within that occupation. And if there's a mismatch, try to bridge the gap. Produce a SWOT analysis to identify your weaknesses and development opportunities. SWOT is normally what's conducted in business strategy. It's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats analysis. It's simply looking at all the strengths of the organization, all the opportunities facing the organization, all the weaknesses and all the threats. Well, you can do the same thing for yourself. Look at your own strengths. Just write down strengths and write down what are your strengths. Your ability to do mathematics, your ability to write clearly, your ability to use computers, your ability to drive a car, your ability to write down all of your abilities, all your strengths, then your weaknesses. What can you not do? And what courses of action are you taking to fix that? What opportunities have you got? What threats are there? In other words, you may be interested in a certain line of work, but it's been threatened by outsourcing. Perhaps the companies are moving to the Far East, or perhaps the skills are being outdated or superseded by new products or new ways of doing things. So list the threats as well. Then set yourself SMART aims and objectives to provide a better focus in achieving goals. Now, I won't go through the SMART acronym again, but it's been specific and so on. So look at the SMART objectives and see if you can match up your strengths and weaknesses against those. If you're not familiar with the SMART acronym by now, you haven't looked at all of the classes in the module up to this point. So I suggest you go online and look up what SMART is. Finally, use a transcript. Get your CV sorted out, and also use reflective logs as evidence to track progress in achieving your goals. So it's not just getting your curriculum vitae in place, but it's having evidence to support what you've got. What you've written down should be supported. You should have reflective logs. What did you learn, and how did you learn it, and when did you learn it? And give an insight into you. This does not have to be a long account of your abilities. It could be short sentences. Produce it in a separate document, and it relates to what you've said in your CV, perhaps. I say perhaps because you may want to treat it as a separate document, just as further insight to you, the individual. And this will help you to get the job you're after. Now, setting career goals. Well, career goals are a set of objectives that individuals put in place to help them evaluate their career paths. So what is your career goal? What do you want to be, and where do you want to be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? What sort of lifestyle do you want, and what sort of job do you want? What sort of career do you want? Now, these can be broken down into short-term career goals. For example, 12 months from now, where do you want to be? And you could have medium-term, say 2 years' time, where do you want to be? And even 5 years' time, long-term goals. 5 or even 10 years' time, where do you want to be? What sort of career do you want? What sort of occupation do you want? Say a 12-month plan could be to gain a merit on the first year of my H&D in business course. So that's the aim. Now the objective, have 100% attendance record, so do all the classes, meet all the requirements, aim for 4 merits each term, read a quality newspaper once a week to improve business knowledge, and so on. The timescale is a year. And liaise with tutors or with colleagues to see if you're meeting your targets. Organize tutorials if you need to have them. And make sure all the assignments are done on time. Now that could be a good 12-month period for someone doing a H&D course, a Higher National Diploma in Business Studies. That could be a good 12-month plan. Now the short-term plan is to gain, let's say, a 2-1 honours degree in business from Leeds University or from Birmingham University or London University or wherever. Gain a 2-1 degree from some university, let's say. And how do you do it? How are the objectives? Well, achieve an assignment grade of 65% in each module, and so on and so on. Timescale, 3 years. Good medium-term plan, and see if you can meet that plan. Then in the long term, get a fully professional job. Engage in regular training opportunities. Join and qualify in a professional society, for example in accountancy, in marketing, in purchasing and supply, or in whatever career direction you decide to go, but try to become professionally qualified and pursue a career in that area. Now, setting goals. Well, when setting a goal, you need to consider, what are you aiming to achieve? What do you want? Is it achievable? Is it practical? Can it be done? And what's the importance of achieving this goal? How motivated are you to achieve the goal? If you're very excited about getting this goal, it will be easier to do. If it's just something you're filling out just to have a goal, then it probably will not be achieved because you're not exactly motivated. You're not very well motivated to achieve it at all, so it's not going to work. Let's say you are motivated, then what resources and facilities do you need to achieve the goal? You need qualifications, or what do you need to achieve it? What gaps are in my skills, knowledge and qualifications? So what are the skills gaps, and how do I bridge those? And look at the SMART objectives. Now, I've mentioned those before and I've asked you to look them up, but just run over them quickly. The objectives need to be SMART in order for them to be effective. You must ensure that your career plan consists of SMART objectives. Now, the career goals, the SMART career goals, are be specific. This is the S from SMART. It's an acronym. So goals need to be clear and specific in terms of what you want to achieve. What is your goal? Be very specific. Don't be general, because if you're general, it's not going to work. You're just aiming at anything. And be measurable. How do you intend to achieve your goal? What criteria will be used in order to ensure that your goal has been achieved? Make it measurable. I need this qualification. I need a HND in business. I need a 2-1 degree. I need professional whatever it is. Specify exactly what you need. It's measurable, because once you've got it, that's done. That's measurable. And that's important. You must have measurable goals. Otherwise, it's too vague and you're never going to achieve it. It must be achievable. The goal must be achievable. And allowing for financial problems and time pressures and economic conditions, look at all the constraints. It must be achievable. If it's not achievable, there's no point in even setting it as a goal, because it can't be done. Make sure it is achievable given the resource package that you've got. And be realistic. Do you have access to the resources to help you to achieve the goals? Money, material and time. If you haven't, then aim for something less. Get a job that will build on the lesser qualifications and continue to work for the higher qualifications. So you're being realistic and you're pacing yourself properly, and you will get there in the end. It'll take you slightly longer, but you will get there. Don't rush into it. And there should be a time frame within which you achieve your goals. You need to achieve them, let's say, in 5 years or 8 years' time, depending on the resource package you've got right now. You might have to take a slightly longer time to save up the resources and take on the course. But set a time and say, that's the time period I need to achieve this by, and do not deviate from it. Make sure that you continue until it is achieved. Now, evaluating progress. Well, evaluating your progress is a cyclical process in which you are constantly planning, monitoring, reflecting and adjusting in order to meet your aims and objectives. So it's cyclical. You constantly plan. Look at how you're doing. Monitor how you're doing. Reflect on how you're doing. Are you meeting the set objectives, or are you falling behind? And readjust accordingly. But don't give up. You need to continually evaluate and review your progress, which reflect your career goals, the SMART objectives I've just set out. When evaluating progress, you need to consider what has been learned, reassessment of resources, do goals need readjusting, and what factors are hindering your progress. Look at all of those and look at them honestly and see what can be done in order for you to continue on the course, because you know that that's going to lead to long-run success. This is how you develop your career. So if there are setbacks on the way, how can they be dealt with? How can they be solved? What solutions can be found in order for you to continue on the path you've set to achieve your goals? Being able to receive and reflect on feedback is important to help you to achieve your goals. The feedback can come from your colleagues. It can come from fellow students. It can come from managers in the business. Feedback can come from a variety of sources. It doesn't have to come exclusively from a tutor. But it's important to get feedback in order to know how well you're doing, how effective your studies are. It's always best to receive feedback from tutors, friends, family and career advisors, since they will be able to help you to judge whether your targets are appropriate for your career expectations. So it's necessary to look at your career expectations and talk these over with other people, informed people, perhaps your colleagues on the course or friends, to see if they're realistic. And don't get put off if there are negative comments. The comments should be supported by reasoning. There should be logical comments. There should be reasonable comments, and that you should be able to understand the comments in the context in which they were meant. Don't just take negative comments as fact. They should be rationalized, and they should be clear, and they should be based on fact, based on reasonable observations. So feedback is valuable as it provides opportunities to reassess your aims and adjust objectives and evaluate your personal SWOT. So feedback is just comments from other people about what you're trying to do, how realistic it is, and what are the benefits, the likely benefits in the future, as well as the overall benefits of the time you're committing and the resources you're committing to achieve your career objective. As I said, don't get put off by negative comments unless they are backed up by fact that is easily understood. But nonetheless, seek the comments, because insights can be gained from them. It's particularly useful to get feedback from tutors, because it's in their interest to give objective comments, fair and reasonable comment. Now, the benefits of maintaining a development plan. Well, it provides a better focus on what needs to be achieved. Because you've got a plan, you know what needs to be achieved. You have got a good focus on what's necessary. You become aware of your own skills, your qualities and your capabilities, because you have reflected on these and you've thought about them, and you're careful about the way you assess yourself, the way you see yourself. So you have great self-awareness. It helps you become more competent in obtaining the right job. Because you've got a development plan, you're aiming in the right direction. You've thought about it. You've been very careful about your planning, what career you want, what's required, what skills gap there is, what have you got right now, what's required, what's the gap, how do you fill the gap. So you're aiming in the right direction because you've thought about it and reflected on it. It helps you develop on skills such as problem solving, planning, organizing and time management skills. You know the importance of these. So you will set about trying to find evidence of how good you are at doing them, to be able to justify it to an employer, to show examples of how you confronted problems and you solved the problem. So these are the advantages of development planning, and these are the issues in development planning. It's very important that individuals have a development plan, which not only includes academic qualifications but also experiences. And the strongest candidates are the ones who have a blend of solid vocational stroke academic qualifications and work experience. It's for that reason why qualifications such as the HND has become so popular in many countries, because it's a mixture of two sets, academic skills and experiences within industry and commerce. That's all I'm going to do on this topic. It's an important topic because it helps you to understand the goals you need to set and how you need to monitor and achieve the goals that you've worked out for yourself. And looking at the SMART objectives and looking at a personal SWOT is very important. Getting independent comment in the form of feedback from colleagues and friends and family and tutors and perhaps employers if they have time to do it, that's very important as well. But being realistic is also extremely important, and ensuring that you've got the resources and the capacity to do courses that you think are necessary. So that's all I'm going to do for now. So I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.